Highway 401, which runs through Toronto and Ontario, is one of the most remarkable roads in North America. Just imagine, on some stretches of this highway, over 500,000 cars pass in a single day. That's actually more than the Santa Monica Freeway in Los Angeles or I-75 in Atlanta. Plus, the highway links Canada and the U.S., and you know what that means. It's used for trade. And not just any trade, we're talking big-time trade. According to some sources, Highway 401 handles 60% of all vehicle-based transport between the two neighboring countries. In the end, what we've got here is one of the busiest highways in the world. Lots of passenger cars, loads of trucks. Sometimes it's just really hard to get through Highway 401 because of all the traffic, or even dangerous. With so much traffic, Highway 401 is actually a pretty risky road. And chances are things might soon get even worse. The Canadians are planning to build a tunnel in this area over 31 miles long, which will almost definitely make driving on Highway 401 even harder. Or will it? Today, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Canada and the U.S. have one of the closest economic ties in the world. According to Statistics Canada, in 2024, the total volume of two-way trade in goods topped 1 trillion Canadian dollars, with 75.9% of exports going to the U.S. and 62.2% of imports coming from it. That's over 2.7 billion Canadian dollars a day, highlighting just how vital the North American market is for Ontario's economy and for Canada as a whole. A big part of all that trade between the two neighboring countries actually goes through Highway 401. It's said that Highway 401 handles up to 60% of all Canada-U.S. freight traffic, remaining the country's biggest trade corridor. So, can you imagine just how important this route is for trade? And as we mentioned, it's the busiest in North America, and one of the busiest in the world. According to Ontario's Ministry of Transportation, on just one stretch between Renforth Drive and Highway 427 in Toronto, the average daily traffic tops 450,300 vehicles, and on peak days, over 500,000. Obviously, that's a huge issue for trade flow, which relies on trucks hauling tons of goods. In particular, it's the traffic jams on the 401 that are behind massive economic losses. According to a study by the Residential and Civil Construction Alliance of Ontario and the Ontario Road Builders Association, gridlock in the Greater Toronto Area led to annual losses of 44.7 billion Canadian dollars in 2024 due to lower productivity and extra fuel costs, while traffic congestion across the province caused losses estimated at 56.4 billion Canadian dollars. The Canadian Automobile Association ranks the 401 among the 10 worst bottlenecks in North America. Every year, delays here total more than 3 million hours, and idling fuel costs for trucks alone run into tens of millions of dollars. It's estimated that each truck loses between 75 and 100 Canadian dollars per every idle hour, factoring in fuel and driver wages. And when you multiply that by hundreds of trucks, you're looking at daily losses in the hundreds of thousands. Disruptions in just-in-time delivery timelines trigger assembly line shutdowns at car plants, freeze up inventory in warehouses, and incur fines for not meeting deadlines. To stay afloat, companies have to factor extra risk into product prices, hurting their ability to compete globally. With no alternate routes and the main corridor overloaded, Highway 401 stays a bottleneck, slowing down two-way trade and putting investment plans on hold. Congestion on Highway 401 affects not only shipments, but also everyday drivers. A CTV study found that a trip through the busiest section can take on average 36 minutes longer than expected, and around 3.2 million driver hours are lost annually on this route. Residents of Toronto and surrounding suburbs are forced to sacrifice leisure time daily and spend hours stuck in traffic, negatively impacting their quality of life. Besides that, communities near the highway deal with high levels of noise and air pollution every day. According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, a Class 8 truck idling emits over 290 ounces of CO2 and 5 ounces of nitrogen oxides per hour of running without moving. With hundreds of these trucks stuck in traffic, total emissions add up to hundreds of tons of harmful substances, which leads to worse air quality and a rise in respiratory illnesses among locals. Carnage Alley. Probably not a name you'd expect for a regular road, but that's exactly what they call the stretch of Highway 401 between Windsor and London, and the name wasn't chosen for no reason. On September 3, 1999, a horrific crash happened there when 87 vehicles collided in thick fog, leaving 8 people dead and 45 injured. The highway was shut down for several days for emergency work and investigation, but the danger of this road doesn't end there. It's known for a high accident rate because of its massive traffic. According to the Ministry of Transport, between 2013 and 2017, 44,974 collisions were recorded here, with 13,954 people injured and 109 killed. In 2018, the total accidents numbered 5,619, with 1,508 collisions causing injuries and 18 resulting in death. So, Highway 401, being a vital trade artery between Canada and the U.S., is equally vulnerable to traffic jams, economic losses, environmental impacts, and threats to people's lives. This highlights the urgent need for innovative solutions. One of them made the news in 2024, a tunnel that will run beneath Toronto's homes. Actually, ideas like this had been floating around in Toronto's infrastructure circles since the last decade. Hypothetical options and concepts were tossed around, basically nothing actually feasible. However, 2024 is the year when at least some concrete info and proof came through that the tunnel might actually get built. Ontario Premier Doug Ford announced the launch of a technical assessment to explore the possibility of creating a new tunnel expressway for the existing Highway 401. It was announced then that the province began a technical investigation, the goal of which was to study the routes, lane counts, tunnel length, and entrance and exit designs, along with evaluating how the project would help reduce traffic congestion in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. As part of the initial phase, the Ontario provincial government announced a proposal called the Highway 401 Tunnel Feasibility and Congestion Relief Study, with applications expected to be submitted by the end of May 2025. Contractors were required to provide both technical and non-technical info, from engineering calculations to assessments of the project's economic impact and environmental consequences. The project has political backing at the highest level. In February 2025, Doug Ford included the tunnel under Highway 401 in the list of nationally significant construction projects, sending a letter to the Prime Minister of Canada asking to simplify the federal environmental assessment procedures. On its part, the provincial government promised to consult with Indigenous peoples whose traditional lands cross the route, as well as with municipalities along the way, to take into account the social and cultural features of the regions. So, what exactly will this new route be like? According to initial info, the tunnel should stretch about 31 miles and link the western suburbs of Brampton, Mississauga with the eastern ones, including Markham and Scarborough. It should include both regular lanes for cars and dedicated lanes for public transport and trucks, which will help ease the load on the main road and shift some of the passenger traffic underground. That said, building a route like this under the city is no easy task at all, so it's already clear to everyone that even with today's advanced tunnel boring machines, it won't be a quick or simple job. On top of that, other kinds of work will have to be used too, including blasting and drilling. To decide how and what exactly is going to be done, a technical feasibility study will be conducted. It's already been announced that part of it will include looking into the experience of similar projects. For example, they say Ontario wants to take a few lessons from the Channel Tunnel. That's 31 miles of underwater railway connecting England and France. Tunnels in Australia, Japan, and India are also being brought up as reference points. So far, there isn't much clarity about what the new tunnel is actually going to look like. However, even now, it's clear the project is going to be quite expensive. That's exactly what's one of the main issues with the new route at the moment, and also why many people don't see the project as realistic at all. So, for example, a similar situation once came up in Ottawa. They needed to ease traffic and a 2-mile tunnel was proposed. They even carried out a feasibility study, which on its own cost $750,000. Yeah, before a single shovel hit the ground, the price tag was already pushing $1 million. And that was just the beginning. Because according to estimates, the whole construction was going to cost over $2 billion in 2016 dollars. Just a reminder, we're talking about a tunnel that's 2 miles long. In the end, nobody ended up building the new route under Ottawa. There's another real-life example, the tunnel in Seattle. Building it was a serious challenge, and the total cost of the 1.9-mile tunnel hit $3.3 billion. According to experts, based on the cost of similar projects, the very rough estimate for 0.6 miles of tunnel in Toronto would be around $1.7 billion. So if the total length is meant to be 31 miles, we're talking some mind-blowing numbers, about $90 billion. And if they decide to add public transport in the form of a train, then it'll be a whole different tunnel, with the cost jumping to around $130 billion. That kind of spending looks, at the very least, massive, which is why many people say the project just isn't worth it. The tunnel won't bring enough benefit to justify the money poured into it. Still, the people behind the idea say that traffic jams already cost the economy so much money that even a tunnel this expensive will definitely pay off. Another problem is how long the construction takes. According to some people, building the new tunnel sections will require a machine running non-stop for several years. And that's not even counting the time needed for planning, contract bidding, and the actual construction. If several machines are used, the work will definitely move faster, but of course that'll drive up the cost. One big tunnel boring machine costs about $150 million, and there's no guarantee things will actually speed up because emergencies can always happen. When they were building a tunnel in Seattle, for example, the drill brought in from Japan for the project got stuck. As a result, the timeline for finishing the new route in Seattle was pushed back by 2.5 years. And even right in Toronto, the tunnel boring machines had their share of issues. The machines were digging a new storm drain beneath Old Mill Drive, part of a larger plan to deal with the area's ongoing basement flooding problem. In March 2022, work kicked off with a remote-controlled drill set to create a 925-foot sewer tunnel leading to a finished shaft on Bloor Street West. It had to be placed deep below ground to avoid damaging the Bloor-Danforth subway line. But just 23 feet before the end of the route, the machine hit 14 underground steel anchors used in the construction of 2 neighboring apartment buildings. It got tangled in them, then turned and went off course. Due to the difficulties dismantling the tunnel boring machine, the deadlines for the bigger project, initially estimated at about $9 million, were pushed back repeatedly. Ultimately, the staggering final cost was no less than $25 million. In short, there have already been precedents in Toronto, so no one will be surprised if something similar happens during the construction of the tunnel to ease Highway 401. Probably that's also why people think the tunnel project might stretch out to 20 years. At the same time, the city will probably face even more problems over these 20 years. Any drilling under a busy highway will inevitably disrupt surface traffic. You can't dig several dozen miles non-stop. Tunneling's done in short sections, after which the tunnel boring machine has to be pulled out, transported, and placed in a new spot, and the excavated soil hauled away. Doing this in a city full of life and one of the busiest highways in the world is not the best idea, especially for the locals and all the businesses whose goods move along Highway 401. The fact is, this will cause long-term closures of lanes and exits, require setting up temporary ramps and bypasses, and complicate the delivery of materials and removal of excavated stuff, which will inevitably affect traffic intensity and safety on Highway 401. Besides that, there are a lot of other problems that turn the suggested tunnel for Highway 401 into a plan it's better not to go ahead with at all. A serious challenge is ensuring safety and life support underground. The underground route requires huge amounts of infrastructure, including lots of ventilation shafts, emergency exits, and underground junctions. On top of that, fire stations will be needed, and the new route must be equipped with systems that let drivers and passengers not worry about the trip becoming dangerous. All of this is hard enough for a regular tunnel about 1.8 miles long. But here, the route is over 31 miles. They'd need to come up with unconventional exits since most systems are made for standard small tunnels and won't work for such huge underground corridors. Another downside is the environmental impact of the work, which can be up to 30 times more polluting than surface construction of similar roads. Excavating millions of tons of soil will create huge quarries, which will hit the landscape hard, disrupt wild animals' migration routes, and destroy some valuable farmland. Next, it should be noted that the materials used for the tunnel, like concrete, rebar, steel, as well as skilled workers, will be taken away from housing and infrastructure construction, which will lead to price hikes in the market and delays in building residential complexes and public buildings. Opponents of the project argue that instead of an ambitious tunnel, it'd be quicker and more efficient to channel these resources into developing public transport, which would solve the traffic problem much better. However, apparently, all these difficulties and the negative reaction from a lot of people don't really scare the authorities. Doug Ford states straight up, "This will be one of the longest tunnels in the world, but we'll get the job done, mark my words." Many might not like this because of all the downsides and negative consequences, but the project promises benefits and positive effects. A key benefit of the tunnel is drastically reducing surface traffic jams. Ontario's Ministry of Transportation modeling predicts that if nothing's done, by 2051, delays on Highway 401 will nearly double, and average travel times could increase by 90 minutes. Moving transit, freight, and some passenger traffic underground will help clear up Highway 401 and a bunch of other busy roads in the area. These include Highways 407, 400, and 427, plus the Don Valley Parkway, or DVP. This will let goods and people move faster both within the province and across Canada, as well as between the US and Canada. You do remember that Highway 401 is a key route for regular people and for a huge variety of cargo coming from all over, right? So it's a win for everyone, because both shipments and everyday people will be able to get from point A to point B more quickly. Faster travel means saving money, and while for one person who will spend less time stuck in traffic and burn less fuel, the benefit might not seem that big, for a company sending out dozens of trucks, the daily savings can add up to something much more substantial. The Ontario Trucking Association points out that once the tunnel opens, transportation costs for logistics companies will be reduced. Savings on fuel, less truck downtime, and fewer late penalties will help boost profits and bring down final product prices. As we already mentioned, besides the high-speed highway for cars and trucks, the underground route will most likely have dedicated lanes for public transport. Getting some passengers to switch from personal cars to the high-speed underground line will ease the load on surface roads and make it easier to get to jobs and schools. The environmental benefits of the tunnel under Highway 401 are often underestimated. Experts note that because there's no constant speeding up or emergency braking inside the tunnel, it greatly reduces both greenhouse gas emissions and fuel use while driving. If a big portion of trucks and passenger vehicles go underground, emissions of CO2 and nitrogen oxides on the highway surface are predicted to go down, improving air quality in the suburban areas of Toronto, Scarborough, and Mississauga, and ensuring a positive impact on the health of locals. Noise reduction is another important benefit for coastal communities and urban areas along Toronto's roads. Cars will spend less time driving on surface streets and more time in the tunnel, which keeps the noise contained. This, in turn, will raise property values and open up more opportunities for urban development along the surface route, freeing up space for landscaping and greenery. From a safety standpoint, the tunnel creates a more controlled driving environment. No intersections or exits inside the underground space eliminate the risk of side collisions and reduce the chance of accidents caused by human error. Modern monitoring systems, automatic traffic control, and emergency alerts will allow quick responses to incidents, minimizing partial road closures and improving overall traffic flow in the area. On top of that, the construction will have people working on it, which creates jobs. Thousands of long-term jobs during both the construction and the ongoing operation and maintenance of the tunnel. The Ontario government estimates that operating the tunnel boring machines and the related construction will require engineers, mining supervisors, drivers, logistics specialists, and maintenance crews. This might give work to as many as 10,000 people throughout various phases of the project. All in all, these effects, from saving time and helping the environment to creating jobs, make the tunnel project under Highway 401 one of the most promising initiatives in Canadian and North American transport policy overall. The important thing is to fix all the issues, or they can overshadow the benefits even for the biggest supporters of the new underground route.